Welcome to this week's edition of Brews Cruise. I am your host, Chris Jacobson, and today I have a treat for you. And I'm not talking about the screwball. I'm talking about my guest, Travis Akre. Welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
So we are actually doing this at 9:30 in the morning. So there's a reason why I got screwball. It's not because it's peanut butter, which would go fantastic in the morning, but it's because you're a baseball guy. And he was my old baseball coach 20 years ago. And we're going to get into that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crack the screwball. And I've already chilled this, so I don't know if you like chilled. I hope you like chilled whiskey. And I don't know if you like any ice in yours. I always like about two little pieces of ice just to distill the taste. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to let you do it if you want that, and then you can pour how much you want. But we have a golf tournament coming up, so we got to be a little careful here.
No doubt.
Yep, and you can move the mic all you want, so no problem there. So, yeah, you said whiskey, and I wasn't sure if peanut butter. I've had this before with a buddy of mine, and I was like, I had it, and I'm like, I don't know if I like the taste that much. And this is when it first came out, so I'm going to give her another try.
Yeah, it goes with just about anything, too.
So what I was going to originally get was Curveball.
Oh, yeah.
That's another baseball reference, but it was barbecue whiskey. So I didn't think barbecue whiskey would be fantastic in the morning.
That's a good choice on your part.
Yeah. So this is funny. And actually this morning I just saw Joe Crone.
Oh, nice.
And I said, hey, guess who's coming on the podcast this morning? Because he goes, he always goes, Pam to me, like we used to do 20 years ago. Yeah. And I go, speaking of that, guess who's coming on the podcast today? And I go, Travis is coming out. He's like, all right. He's like, when's that one come out? I go, on Monday it'll come out. So we're going to be doing that.
You got a viewer for sure.
I got at least one view. I'm hoping I get a lot more with you because there's no way you don't have great stories. But I want to go back for those who don't know our relationship. You were my VFW baseball coach 20 years ago.
Hard to believe, 20 years already.
I know, and I still have all the photos. My mom has everything, all the articles that I was in, and all the things like me pitching. It was a fun time back then. And that one, everyone whenever we talk about best years in baseball, that was my absolute favorite year.
Awesome.
And I don't think it was because we had pretty good success. I mean, we were supposed to go to the state. We just messed up that one game.
Yep.
But I think it was because of not your coaching as well, but also the camaraderie of all the guys that we had on our team.
Yep.
It just made it so much fun. I remember we went up to St. Cloud and we played there in the sweet stadium, or fields for sure, because they were all nicely groomed and all that. Yep. And we stayed at the hotel and we pranked people, and I think that's what made it fun.
Well, you touched on a lot of good points there, and you're right. The camaraderie of your guys' team was really special. I coached that program for 7 years, but also I took pride in it because that's, that was what I also played in,
Yeah.
And I knew there was a legacy kind of behind the program, and I knew there was really only 2 coaches before me. So I took a lot of pride in that. But your group was special because you guys clicked so fast, and it was kind of, it wasn't like a dominant Winona senior high team. We had a lot of Cotter kids too, which was great. Mm-hmm. And we had a good amount of kids that tried out for that team also, but you guys, once the team was picked and we went, you guys really gelled. And you touched on that St. Cloud tournament. I love that tournament.
Yeah.
I got lucky because I found out about it after my first year, and there were 16 teams, those 2 stadiums, and I reached out to them, and they kind of made way for us to join that tournament ever since.
Okay.
Just because we were coming from so far away, whatever. We had success in that tournament every year. Never won it, lost in the championship a couple times, but it always came at the right time. It was like the summer was a build-up, and that tournament hit right before playoffs.
Yeah. And
I always felt like that was it really was kind of like the vacation for some families at that time, compared to today's world. But, that tournament brought out everything. Everybody got excited just because, you're right, the stadium atmosphere, you at putts, you got the ivy on the wall, you got the Wrigley kind of feel to it,
It had a big time feel to it when
absolutely.
we were there.
Yep. And everybody was excited, obviously playing well.
Yeah.
Brought everybody together, but you guys, that team was special though. Like we had some good offense, we had some arms, and what really gave us a lot of success. We just, like you said, we were one game short, unfortunately.
I know. That year I always look back, and every time we were playing, even if we were down, I'm like, at some point we're going to come back and we'll just win like we always normally do. Sometimes it was quick, and then that last game just, I think it was like one error I think it happened, and it is what it is. I mean, that's baseball for you, especially when you're playing good competitive baseball. You're not blowing people out. It's actually a competitive game where it comes down to managing the game properly.
For sure.
So then when did you start getting into coaching baseball? Was it years prior to that, or was that like one of your first years coming up?
I actually ran into the person that gave me the opportunity the other day, Candy Coner. I was a junior in high school, just finished. I started coaching out in Goodview and started doing 10 and under baseball as a junior in high school. And then I caught on doing some park rec stuff too that summer. And I had shoulder surgery, so I was out that whole summer. Wasn't able to play. And so I was like, I got to do something. I got to get my fix with baseball some way or another. And so I started coaching those 2 summers or that summer, and it really just took off from there. I ended up, just coaching the Goodview program, and then when I was down at Ellsworth in Iowa, I remember my dad calling me and be like, hey, you got to call Dan. And he said that he needs a coach and he's stepping aside, whatever. And called him. He's like, it's all yours. You're playing competitive baseball now. That's what I want, somebody to run the program that's hungry like that. And did it for that time and then moved away after that.
So were you in college when you started coaching that team?
The VFW, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when in 2004, were you still in college, or were you just fresh out of college then?
I was just wrapped up, and that's when I recruited old Dan to come up.
Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to get into that too.
We still talk quite a bit, but I got him come. I was like, man, I need some help this summer, and what do you think about taking a drive up and helping me this summer? He goes, shoot. I'd do that. And I said, well, I can get you a job at the bar and live with me and do that. And, and that's what reminded me today. His father was such a car guy, and that was literally the first person I thought of when I walked in here today and saw everything was Dan's dad. He is such a passion too, so it was cool.
Now, did you meet Dan in college?
Yeah, at Ellsworth.
And he was a baseball player as well?
Yep.
So he was just looking for something to do in the summer, and it just turned out. Okay.
Yep.
Whereabout was he from? Was he from Iowa or from somewhere up here?
Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Oh, Fort Dodge, okay. So,
Dirt Dodge, as he likes to call it.
Dirt Dodge? Well, so, and the funny part is I went to Ellsworth, and I was going to play baseball there, and I ended up playing golf.
Yep.
So I went there because I always heard about baseball from Ellsworth. And I went to the meeting, and I go in there, there's like 40 or 50 guys. I'm like, I'm not going to see the light of playing because I didn't get recruited. I just went.
Yep.
I literally did. I don't even think I did no, wait, I did. I went down there. I did a little. Well, I had already been accepted. Went down there to orientation and then just started college.
Yep.
I never even toured the place. I just said, I'm going to go here. I'll try to play baseball. I went to the meeting. There was like 40 or 50 people there. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to see the light of day. Maybe just golf because I'm decent at that too.
Yep.
And so I ended up golfing at Ellsworth instead.
Was Coach Paulsick the coach at that time?
He was. He was hilarious.
One of my favorite people in the world.
Yes. And do you know where he's at anymore?
Retired. Still up in Brainerd area, I believed, in the summertime some.
Really?
And then I know he's back around in Iowa too some now, grandkids and stuff like that.
Okay. He was fun.
He's the best.
Was he a golfer? I don't even know.
Yeah, a really good golfer.
Yeah.
But, he's got an interesting story too because he was down at William Penn forever down in southern Iowa in NAIA school. And then ended up coming to Ellsworth, running the PE department. I think he came like in 1989, maybe, something like that.
Okay.
And was coaching football and then started coaching baseball. And when I transferred and went to Iowa, or to Ellsworth, I went there my second year. I went to Anoka Ramsey my freshman year. Just same thing, got hurt. We really didn't have a chance to be recruited, and did everything on my own. Went to Anoka Ramsey, then went to Ellsworth, and Joe Lukin came on like the middle of summer and was the new coach, and I didn't even know. I reached out to Paulsick, he just passed the name.
Sure.
And that's where I went to school, and Paulsick was one of my teachers for a long time, and then
awesome.
when I went back there in 05 or what is it, 04, 05, whatever, to be the head softball coach for 1 year, Paulsick was my assistant.
Really?
Yeah.
So he wasn't doing, wait, he started doing golf in 06, 07. Or I don't know if he started that, but that's when I was there, was 06, 07.
Yep. He took over right after that.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, because I took the job literally at this time of year, right now. It was a week before school started, and their coach left, and they called, and they're like, I remember the AD calling me. He's like, hey, I heard you want to be a softball coach. I just like hung up the phone on him. I was like, no. I said, I was intimidated. I was like, I've never coached women before, you know?
Sure.
But I will tell you this, when I did, I told Paul Sick, I was like, you're going to be my assistant. I don't know what I'm doing. I said, I know the game, but not the ins and outs of softball.
Yeah.
And I was grateful for it. He was the savior of that year. But that experience taught me how to really communicate with people.
Yeah.
And just being able to work with women, you know, in the game. And I just had to slow down. Like at that time, I was just like, I don't know, I felt like I was barking all the time, really not letting kids have the experience, right? Like, just felt like that's what coaching was, and it totally brought a different perspective, and I'm grateful for that moment.
Yeah. Well, and I've coached basketball for middle school kids, and there is a difference between boys and girls.
Absolutely.
And funny thing is, actually, the girls, one year, I wasn't fired up enough for them because they liked when I yelled at them. For whatever reason it was.
Yeah.
They go, Coach, you need to yell at us. Get us fired up. I'm like, all right. I just started yelling, and I wasn't like being mean. I was just trying to fire him up, and like, that's what we need. I'm like,
right.
oh, okay, sounds
right.
good. But everyone's different, and maybe with basketball it's slightly different. But I have now since stopped coaching basketball. I don't know if I'm a huge person that's big into coaching. I thought I would be really into it with sports.
Yeah.
I'm more of the person that still wants to play the game, and I'd rather have someone telling me what to do and how to play better.
You know, and that's part of why people get into coaching, though, too, right, is that competitive piece, what you just kind of touched on, you know, and that's really was for me. Once I had surgery as a junior in high school, you know, like I was passionate about the game, and I knew that was probably going to be the way that I could stay in the game, was being a coach, and that would take care of my competitive desire, you know.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and the thing I had the problem with is I could only make a difference so much, so I couldn't go out and control the game at all because I can't play.
Yep.
But the other part that was great about it was when they did something right, I could see, I told you that's what you needed to do, and then it clicks with them, and they're like, oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
And that was the rewarding part. So there was my pluses and minuses there.
No doubt.
For sure. So now you call up Dan, and Dan comes on up, and did he coach with you another year, or was it just that one?
Just the one summer.
Just the one. We gave him too much of a rough time. I remember everyone gave him crap.
Oh yeah,
it was hilarious.
He loved it. We still talk about that summer.
That's good.
He had a blast. And to me, the best part is today, even when I see everybody from that team, they still ask how Dan's doing, what he's up to.
I'm friends with him on Facebook. I believe. I don't think he does much on it, but I do have him on there.
Yep.
So
he's down in the
Ankeny,
Ankeny, Iowa area now, and
is he? Okay.
they've been there for quite a while now.
Sure.
Just dogs and fishing.
Yeah.
And, yep. One of the best, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now you got into coaching, and then you went and coached girls softball.
Yep.
How was that? 1 year.
1 year.
And then what happened after that? I know you've done some big time coaching. It sounds like.
It's kind of a long. After that, I actually moved back here. After that year at Ellsworth doing the softball, because my father was involved in a car accident, and so I ended up coming back here, helping with that. He was and that actually happened on our bye week in the middle of April or whatever it was. I actually was on my way back here for the weekend. It was the only free weekend we had, and I was in Mason City, and my mother called, and my parents never called. I was always the one that had to reach out and see how everything was going. And my mom called, and she's like, it wasn't right, and she told me that accident. I just punched it, and I was hightailing it to Rochester. And
sure.
He ended up being in the hospital for 7 weeks, in ICU for 7 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so at that point, it was perspective, right? I'm going to put coaching on hold, and I need to be there with my family and be around, And Coach Polk here at Winona State was gracious enough to bring me on staff here. And so I was able to, help around the house and be around my dad and help my mom out with that stuff. And then, I basically caught on at Winona State here as the grad assistant at that time. So
Okay.
it just kind of worked out. And like I said, I was grateful for that. But then I'd left and I went to Hawaii for a short time. And
Oh, really?
yeah.
I did not know that part.
Yeah. I went there as a girl I was dating, Heidi at the time. She was when I was coaching y'all. And she moved out there and I went out there and it just wasn't for me. The lifestyle, everything else.
Someone said you can get what they call like island fever.
Yeah.
Because I went out there for my honeymoon, and we talking to someone. They lived out there for a little while, and they go, "I got island fever." And I go, what the heck is that? And they go, "Well, when you think about it, you can't really travel anywhere. Like, you know, you go to the United States, you can drive from state to state to state.
Yep.
Not in Hawaii." So
Yep.
I didn't know if that was a thing.
Yeah, you're a 5-hour direct flight just to L.A.
I know.
It takes you longer to get from there to L.A. than it does from L.A. to here.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, I did that, and it just, like I said, it wasn't for me. So I actually moved to Arizona, and I knew that I still wanted to be around baseball, and that was a passion, and just kind of went there and started meeting people.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I've always been able to do that. I'm just going to start meeting people. And caught on at a high school out there on the reservation at Salt River High School. And then during that time, there was a lot of colleges that were coming out that way, you know, for spring break.
Mm-hmm.
So I met a guy that was hosting that, and he was the same guy that was doing it in Florida. He just had started Phoenix as another option. And so I got introduced to him, and then all of a sudden they started playing at our high school, and things kind of took off a little bit more from there. I met one of my, you know, a guy now that's definitely one of my best friends. He has a summer league out there, and so then I got involved with that, a collegiate summer league. So it's just another way to kind of build the network, right? And I had a lot of coaches that were sending me guys down in the summertime, and so I was involved with that for quite some time while coaching at the high school. Did that for 4 years. And then I caught on at Scottsdale Community College for the last 2 years that I was out there, which was awesome. I mean, we went to the World Series both years.
Oh, the College World Series?
Yeah,
Nice.
down in Enid, Oklahoma, Division II NJCA World Series. You know, our last year, we ran out 4 lefties in our rotation. They're all in pro ball.
Really?
And one of them's currently in the big leagues. The other one just was with the Yankees recently. Now he's down in the down in Mexico in the pro ball there. You know, but all 4 guys were in organized pro ball. So that was really cool. Just following them today.
That's
you know.
awesome.
And they and then left there, and then got the opportunity to be the head baseball coach at Ellsworth. And I was like, man, maybe that's the calling. Go back home.
Yeah.
And really didn't want to leave Arizona, but I just felt like it was right, and I'm glad I did it. I mean, we definitely had our challenges there, you know, financially and facilities and stuff like that. But I knew that when I was going into it, I just, you know, it meant something to me too, and I felt like that was just what I needed to be doing, and did that for 6 years, and I started getting involved in the Northwoods at that time and was the manager over at Lakeshore in Mequon, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And another really cool experience. You know, I'm following guys that are in the big leagues now that, you know, played for me over there.
That's awesome.
Know, and just a really cool experience. Did that for 5 summers. And then along the way, I kind of caught on with Kent State, Division I out in Kent, Ohio, and the MAC. Rich tradition when it comes to baseball. And was there for a year and decided that I kind of wanted to step away from baseball for a little bit, and ended up being short-lived. I ended up catching on with the Lake Country Dockhounds in the American Association. They took the spot of the St. Paul Saints, so when the Saints became the AAA for the Twins, they came in. So pro ball, right, in just another atmosphere, a different avenue. Is really cool. You know, you're dealing with guys that have been in the minor leagues, some that have been in the big leagues and still chasing it, right?
Sure.
And getting paid, you know, a little bit. So, and then did that, and then kind of brings the current. Been back here now for a couple of years, and got into the bar life a little bit here, and helping my buddy do that, and then, but it was at Winona State this past year. So.
Okay. So now when you talk about the Northwoods League, is that summer ball? Is that correct?
Yep.
Like, okay.
Yep.
So going from college to summer ball. Is there a big difference, or is it just kind of pick up where it's left off, or are you dealing with some people with more experience, so it's a different type of coaching?
It's kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know, the summer ball game has changed so much, and it's changed because the era we're in, the transfer portal right now is crazy. But I think there's some good stuff to it. I really do. I know that the portal gets a bad name, but it does help the kids. It does create better opportunities for the kids. You know, if a coach gets an opportunity for a better job and he can leave on the drop of a dime,
Sure.
you know, maybe the kid should have that opportunity too.
Right, yeah. I see that too.
But, you know, it would be mostly be a lot of Division I kids, but you know, the coach would maybe only send them out for a little bit of time. You know, it would be very rare to get a player to stay for from the start of the summer to the end. Mm-hmm. You know, you're playing 72 games in 76 days.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's wild. But it's really getting them acclimated to pro ball. Like if you can't say, hey, I want to play pro ball, I want this as my job, and then not be in it too.
It's 162 games in the summer. That's a lot.
Yep. And trying to get your body to play through that, you know, like trying to get your body to play when it's not feeling good.
Yeah.
You know, and learning how to grind, you know, because you're not going to feel your best every day.
No.
And just the proper sleep, diet, training, you know, getting time. You know, back in the day, being in the training room was not a good thing. You know, like the perception was not good, but now it's a part of recovery, you know, and to be able to get through it and keep going. So, but yeah, I think that's the unique thing about the Northwoods is you're just getting guys from all over the country and you watch them come together and play. And there's a few summers where in the middle of the summer when you had your roster that you put together, you know, a lot of people, including myself, thought we were the best team in the league. And it's just, you know, pitchers get to pitch limits, you know, through the year, or they want coaches like, hey, we're going to shut him down. We're going to send him home and get him a little downtime before the fall starts again and before we get going. So, and that's the unique thing, right, is every program's different. And then you get some colleges that are like, let the kid go. Like, that's the experience. Let him see what he can do. And, you know, we'll accommodate him when he gets here in the fall. Maybe we'll give him some downtime and we'll shut him down for a little bit in the fall because of how much extra work he did during the summer. So every program is just a little different. So
when it comes to baseball, in that idea, when's like the peak time that people are getting scouted? Is it in the springtime when they're in college, or is it in the summertime with summer ball, or is there not even a specific time? It's just,
I don't think that there's necessarily a specific time.
There's just scouts everywhere.
Yeah. You know, because the scouts are out all the time, but in the fall, you know, they're basically hitting like Division I's, you know, they're bouncing around at many different schools, putting together their notes. Maybe it's attending a fall game or just a practice, whatever, you know, and they all kind of work with each other though a little bit. I mean, in some sort of way, right? You're always talking, you know who the guys are, but it's constant dialogue with the coaching staff, reaching out, who do you have? And then you're kind of following that kind of stuff. And then, you know, you're tracking during the spring, and then rolls into the summer. But, you know, the spring is definitely where it's a chance to make your money.
Okay.
You know.
Now, you said something about, you know, when you come into some of these programs to coach, some people are coming from the minors or they've come from the majors and they've coming back.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to any of them and what their feelings are when they get, demoted, I guess? I feel like that's what you would call it. I don't know. Do they ever, like, just messes with them mentally, or they're like, no, I got to get back into the majors?
Yeah, that's a good question, you know, because some of it, and that was my time at Lake Country, you know, and it was cool because a lot of those guys I knew from college, you know, and they'd gotten drafted, went on, and, you know, they might not have made it out of A-ball, or they maybe were up in AAA where they were close, you know, like one phone call away.
Sure.
And then a lot of times it really just comes down to injury. You know, they get dinged up and just couldn't quite get over the hump, or, you know, after the injury, just being age or whatever.
Sure.
But you're right, a lot of guys are just like, they're either they've sniffed and they've been so close, or they've been there and they want to get back.
Yeah.
You know, and some, it's the only thing I know.
Yeah, I suppose if you're playing all your life and you get drafted and
Yep.
you're just kind of shuffling through the minors and possibly the majors and back down, and that's all. Yeah, that's all you would know.
Yep. And they just but it's love, right? Where it's. But then you see some guys too, and I see this in just not baseball, but like, some of the guys in NFL have kind of met along the way, whatever, and it's a job.
Okay.
They don't really have the desire to play it, but it's a job.
Sure.
And it pays well because they're at that level.
Yep.
They know they're not going to make no money at doing that kind of money elsewhere.
Yep.
And they have to provide for their family, and they know if they can work this many more years, they're going to be set up for the rest of their life.
Sure.
They could be retired at 35, whatever.
Yeah. That is one of those things. It's like you grow up with a passion of loving a sport, whatever it might be, and then all of a sudden it comes into money, and now it's a business at the same time. So you got to try. Well, I don't know if you have to try to decipher between the two, because you got to figure out if you love it or not. But then he said some people are just like, hey, it's a job. This is what I do. This is what I'm well at.
Yep.
If I can just play so many years, we'll be good and we'll be well off.
Yeah.
So,
There'd be some coaches I know that they couldn't even tell you what's going on in the division, right? Like if they're in a playoff hunt or whatever, they'd be like, oh, I don't even know. Like, because they just shut it off. Like when they walk out the door, you get in the car and go home, they leave work at work. Like they don't care.
Gosh, I feel like that just wouldn't happen with coaching. Like I feel like it always has to come home with you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like someone like yourself that's I feel like you're passionate about baseball, especially coaching, since you've been doing it for 25 years, it sounds like. I feel like your thought is just all the time, what can I do to improve? What can I do to improve?
Yeah.
And it's trying to shut it down after you leave might be kind of hard for some.
Sure.
But yeah, if it's a job, I guess.
But a lot of players are that way too, just a lot of players. They're just like, work's work. I'm getting in the car. I'm going home with my family, whatever. And
I feel like it'd be easier for a player possibly. Well, I guess if they're having a slump, I think it'd be tough. Because if a slump would get in your head. I mean, I play slow pitch softball, and if I don't at least bat about 700, I'm like, oh gosh, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
But I do try to leave that there, and it's not a job by any means. It's just a hobby at this point. It's just fun. But yeah, I know what it's like though. Even just playing for fun and for free, it's just like if I'm not hitting right, I'm like thinking about what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong at all times? So I could see how that would. But then if there's the guys that can do that and just kind of walk out the door, I'm going home. I'm with my family. But some of those guys, they obviously, if you have kids and stuff like that, that's taking up some of your time too.
Yeah.
So
I think some too. Just the last thing, I think a lot of guys though too. They've been doing it for so long, right?
Yep.
And they're kind of getting to the end. Like they know where their body is. They know where it's struggle, the player wise, and what they got to do to get their body just to play each day, And I think that it's just complete shutdown once they get out there. It's like, tell me about it in the morning. Like my day is done. I've checked out, So I don't know. But everybody's different, right? Like everybody, there's some people that just love it, and they want to know everything about every team, and they just even when they get home, they're still digested in it.
Yeah.
So.
The people that are the most passionate usually are the most successful. I was watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. He was obsessed with basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that he would do whatever it took to win. But so now I want to go over. I have a question to two of them that are going to go hand in hand. You said that you've coached some people who have made it to the majors.
Yeah.
Is there some notable people that people would know out there that you have coached?
Not necessarily. Like, there's one guy in the big leagues right now. It's a really cool story. He's made it up there in less than 2 years. I coached him 2 summers ago.
Oh, really?
Hayden Birdsong. He's kind of gone viral now with his changeup that he's kind of come up with, and it's really elevated his game. And he was in Double-A this year. He was in Triple-A for 2 starts, a week and a half. He got the call up to the big leagues.
Wow.
And a couple of weeks ago, what was he? 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, and then it was like 6 innings, 12 strikeouts. Like,
dang.
Yeah, he's
in the majors.
Yeah,
that's
for
pretty
the Giants. Yeah, and it's just he's on a fast track. I mean, it's effortless, and it's one of those things that I remember the first night that he threw for us and came in relief, and his second pitch, I kind of looked at our staff. I was kind of like this, and they kind of looked at me. I'm like, this dude's going to be in the big leagues. I'm like, you could just tell, like, the way it came out of his hand and the body type and the mechanics and just the ball just had a different, it had another level to it. Like, it looked like the ball was still had plenty of carry, like right when it was going into the glove. You're just was like, but it was a constant learner, right? Like, he just kept learning from other people along the way, and it's just really cool to see the success right now. And I was listening to Bob Melvin the other day talk about him, and just was like, we're not bringing him up just to bring him up. Like, we want him here for a long time.
Sure. What's his name again?
Hayden Birdsong.
Okay. What team's he playing for?
Excuse me. He's with the San Francisco Giants,
Okay.
but he was a 6th-round draft pick out of Eastern Illinois, and just he's going to be special.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's developed this thing called a kick change, they call it, and the guys at Tread Athletics were kind of talking about it. And that's the other thing with baseball, right? Like, drive line, tread, all these different facilities are out there that they're all into analytics and how the body should work and
Sure.
and what ball should do and why, pressure points, and it's just breaking everything down. It's gone to another level, like, as far as what it used to be, right? But yeah, for me, I think there's a lot of really good out there with data. Some of it can be a little overflow, but overload. But I think that there's a lot of good into some of it too.
Yeah. Now, I got a question for you. And I know you're more than just baseball. Your life is more than baseball. But since I got you here, I got a question now. When it comes to coaching baseball, it's weird because baseball's you got your defense, you got your offense. You got your hitting, you got your fielding. How do you, as a head coach, I don't even know what my question is here. Like, how do you coach all of that? Or do you obviously you have assistant coaches, but how do you coach it? Or is it more of being a manager of the game? I guess. Because I just go back to our days in the VFW, but we're 16 years old, so
Right.
we're still learning the game. But you're like talking about being with people that are possibly just coming out of the minors or in the minors or possibly like, what does the coaching style look like at that point?
Yeah, good question. I at least for me, I've gotten more into the offensive side as things have progressed in life. I do enjoy the hitting piece of it, but along the way, you pick up other pieces, right? Like the pitching stuff. I've always just been a student of the game, so I wanted to learn. And being a pitcher, right, I had a foundation, but I always wanted to learn more, so I would just sit around and ask questions. So, but respectfully, I knew, like, when it comes to game time, whatever they do, the pitching coach is doing his thing.
Yep.
I'm doing mine. We're not stepping on toes, but we're always working together, right?
Sure.
But then if you're a manager or head coach, whatever the title, right, is, then you're kind of the facilitator. You're overlooking all things. Now, in some programs in the college level, you might be in charge of the hitters or the pitchers, because you might not have a budget for another coach or something. So it might be only you and somebody
Sure.
else. But, here, like, I'm able to kind of run with the hitters and kind of do my thing with them. And, Coach Wing is kind of the facilitator, right? Like, he's the guy in the weight room overseeing those guys, but he's like the CEO, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, and I've been in those positions enough too. Like, that's really kind of what the head coach is at the college and the pro level, right?
Sure.
Like, where you're the CEO, you're overseeing everything, your game management, like in between, you're setting up, you're looking ahead. Like, hey, this is the lineup. This is what we got coming up this inning. This pitcher's at this amount of pitches. Like, we got to think about getting somebody going here. His ball's not doing the same what it was last inning. Like, he's down in velo, or the depth is not there. The
Sure.
swing and miss isn't there. There's so many different things that.
That's a lot of analytics, just like you were talking about.
Yeah,
inning to inning.
Yeah, and so you're trying to prepare for that, and that's why you see, though, a lot of, for instance, like, let's say the big leagues, right, where you never see the manager out on the field coaching third base. it's just too much because you're trying to plan ahead for what's coming up when you're on defense, like with arms, whatever, you're working with the pitching coach or whatever. And that's why it's always been hard. Like, I love coaching third base. I love being on the field, but it goes so fast. The game speeds up so fast for you as being the coach because you're trying to juggle everything.
Yeah.
And, that's why it's almost best if that head guy's in the dugout because you're looking at the lineup, you're looking at what you got coming off offensively. Do we need to look at a pinch hitter? Who's getting ready in the bullpen right now? Because if they make a switch, we have to be in position.
Yeah.
So, and I got to have him getting loose a little bit. So there's just so many different moving pieces all the time.
And you don't even see that behind the scenes.
Right.
You just think coach is in there just watching the game, kind of checking out things, and there's a lot of moving pieces. Like you said, they might be on the offense, and then you're looking at what's coming up in the next half inning coming up. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you actually were touching on the next question I had, which was, what does it look like going through a game? And you were just kind of discussing that just now, so you don't have to ask that question anymore. And that's awesome because, you just you see it on TV, but you don't see what all the managers and the coaches are doing. You just see what's happening on the field at the same time.
And if you're looking at it too, right? In the big leagues, you're watching, like the manager, he might be sitting there, with the lineup card right in front of him. Some of them like to have stuff in their pocket, and some of them have info laid out in front of them. I watch the Brewers a lot, and I watch the Twins a lot. Rocco is a big analytical guy, and he's got information being fed to him all the time, because there's other coaches that are in there that are basically relaying info. A lot of it's done in the scouting reports before the game, so you already kind of got an idea of what. Yeah. If this happens, what I can do with this, whatever. But, and that's just it too. Like even hitters, like they're in between ABs, they're looking in an iPad, whatever, of like the arm angle of the guy or what's coming in.
Really? Did not know that.
Yeah. Or like a DH in the big leagues, he's not on the field. So like, when he knows, hey, I'm coming up, maybe he's hitting leadoff or third that inning, whatever. He's down in the tunnel, getting in some swings, getting himself loose again.
Oh, like in the batting cage.
Yeah, like
Nice.
like underneath the dugout there,
Nice.
He's getting swings in before he goes because those other guys are on the field, their body's moving, whatever.
Yep.
So that's a hard being a DH is such a hard job because you have to find a way. You have to develop a routine. It's like anything else. Routines. You kind of touched on that, I think, earlier. As success and routines. Like people that have routines usually bleed success, right?
That's right.
And I kind of took that from one of my really good friends is the head coach of the Savannah Bananas, and he talks a lot about that. Like he's got like a whole toolkit that he used for his athletes when he was coaching college ball, and it really was a different avenue for me in learning how to reach players, and just talking about the success. And everybody wants success, but how does it come?
Sure.
And if you look at business people, right, they do the same. They don't like getting off their routine. If it's
working for you.
Yeah, like they're going to wake up every morning at the same time, eat breakfast at the same newspaper at the same time.
Yep.
They're going to shine their shoes every Sunday at the same time. It's just a little, and they don't like getting bucked off of it,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just kind of a combination of all those kind of things
cool.
that come into coaching.
Did you just say that you're friends with the Savannah Bananas coach?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I love it. I love the idea of it. It brings a lot of fun to it. But then I also read it's like they're actually competing for real, but it's got a little fun aspect to it. And
Yeah, it's been cool. And one of my former players now is on the team as well. Tyler Gillum is one of my really good friends. Him and I have been close for a long time. So I actually sat in the dugout with them in Milwaukee a year ago, and he came to town, and I told him, hey, I was coming, but it was hard. Like, there's over 2 million people on the waiting list right now to go to a game.
I know. I read that they were about to go under, and they started doing this kind of fun sort of baseball aspect to it. And I know some people have their their thoughts on it, and I think it's just fun because it's
Yeah.
entertainment too at the same time. But then now it's like this completely different success. They flipped it 180, and now it's just as successful as possible because it's just so much fun to watch. And
Yeah.
I mean, celebrities are now like coming out with them. I saw the Backstreet Boys main singer was Brian something.
Yeah.
He came out one day. I was like, what is
Nuts,
going
man.
on? It's kind of fun though.
Back in 2018, that's when I started with Lakeshore. Well, he started with Savannah at the time. So both of us were starting the summer ball journey together. So we'd go back and forth a lot about, just the organization, what the expectation was, how to build the roster, etc.
Yep.
Then in 19, he starts kind of talking about, the forecast of what they want their organization to be. And he kind of just told me a little bit of ins and outs on it. But he told me that the owner, Jesse, I believe his name is, that him and his wife, they have a vision of banana ball. And so they start a taste of it, right? Eric Burns comes on as like the coach of banana ball. And so they keep it going. So they have summer collegiate going on in the summertime, which he's in charge of. And then in the fall, they started banana ball, which they started taking players and just creating this different style of baseball.
Sure.
Entertainment, right? Like the best way to explain it would be like being close to like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
Yeah.
And it just really started to kind of take off. And it took some time, but this gentleman, the owner, was told no over and over and over and over. Just constantly, it'll never work. It'll never work. And kudos to him. I mean, he's created something that's incredible. And it's just different, right? Like your baseball enthusiast may not care for it so much, right? Like,
right, yeah,
because they're just
tradition.
Yeah,
traditional.
right. Yep. But a lot of those people have come around to this now too. You know, like, but it started taking off, and then a lot of people started coming in the summertime, and once word got out, and ESPN kind of took it off the ground, and that's when it kind of blew up. If I recall all this correctly, but I think this would have been, so what are we in, 24
We're
now?
in 24 now.
Yeah, jeez. So I think in 22-ish and 21, there were so many people that were coming to the game in the summertime, and they were almost like kind of disappointed because they were expecting to see banana ball.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, like this is summer collegiate in the summertime, and then banana ball is in the fall, etc.
Sure.
Well, 2 years ago, they got away from it. They're like, we're ending the collegiate stuff. We are full on banana ball. Mm-hmm. And last year was the first year that it was full time, and they started going around to, different stadiums, etc.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, they've sold out the Astros ballpark, Fenway.
I saw that. Yeah.
I know they're going to be down in Des Moines here after the first of the year. They're 3 nights. They were in Cleveland last weekend at the Indians ballpark.
Wow.
They're selling out these ballparks of 35,000+, And now they just did a contract, I think, with maybe TNT to air like every Friday. So majority, they're going around the country, starting like in middle of February, I think, and they're end like in September. But they'll go play on the weekends, and that'll be it. Now, every once in a while, they're still playing games in Savannah, but they've also started 2 teams. The Party Animals, which was their first one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the Firefighters or whatever, I think, is their their third team. And now I know that their plan is to get closer to like a 6-team league.
So it's not staged though?
No.
I mean, they have their fun antics, but then they're still competing.
It's a whole production. I mean, these guys are at the ballpark like at 10 o'clock in the morning. And
going over the routine.
Yeah, yeah.
It's awesome. It's like wrestling.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
But in the skill, right? Because they have trick plays and stuff like that. I think I just saw the other day they hit like 1,000 trick plays or something like that. It's so incredible, and it's just cool, right? like if a fan catches a foul ball in the air, it's an out.
Oh, that's
So
great
it's just
rule.
like it's getting people involved in it all the time, and then in between innings, they're out on the field. The umpire, I think, does a tremendous job with it. He is fully into it.
I know who you're talking about. He looks like Corey Shell. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you
I
do. With being in the bar scene.
I do know Corey, but
he's into it too.
Yeah, like down on the ground doing the splits and stuff. I'm like,
Yes.
this dude is on point. So yeah, it's just they've, I know like when the ballpark opens and the guys are out meeting fans, it's just such a different avenue, and it's not stopping.
No,
I think
it's getting bigger.
Yeah,
because TikTok is taking over.
Oh,
It
yeah.
comes up on my TikTok all the time.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if they're overseas maybe next year. Like,
Wouldn't doubt it if
Yeah.
they're selling out stadiums here. I mean, it's
Yep.
like a road show at this
Yep,
point.
for sure.
When you were in the dugout, what you said you were in the dugout.
Yeah.
What was it like? I mean, was this at the beginning of when they started doing
No,
this?
last summer.
Well, what was the atmosphere, or like what's going on in the dugout?
It was crazy. It was awesome though. I mean, and I was standing right next to the guy on the stilts.
Oh, sure,
He was
yeah.
like kind of getting everything ready to go out. And it was kind of cool because I was talking to my buddy. I was like, "Tell me about this guy." He's like, "Man, we worked on trying to give him a slider and stuff." But I mean, the coordination, right, to be able to pitch and stuff,
Yeah.
like on those things, like man. But yeah, it's been really cool just to see that whole product become what it is.
Sure.
But like I said, they're baseball fans, but they're just it's growing the game. I feel like
Yeah.
in a way too, right?
There's gonna be
Because-
some kids that are gonna love it because they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is entertaining baseball," and obviously you're gonna have your traditionalists
Yeah.
as we talked about, but
Yep.
it might get more people interested in baseball
No
because
doubt.
baseball on TV. I'm gonna admit it's not the most exciting thing to watch, but being there in person,
Yep.
even if it's not Savannah Banana Ball,
Yep.
it's really awesome to be part of the atmosphere of
Yep.
it.
I think the pitch clock thing has probably helped some this now.
think
like
so?
speed up the game.
Okay.
I think the average game time is down like 25 or 27 minutes a game.
And see, my dad's against that. He said, if I'm going to go, and obviously not
Yep.
everyone's traveling 2.5 hours to go to a game, because if we go to the Twins game,
Yep.
it's 2.5 hours,
Yep.
all day thing. Because I don't want to watch a quick game. I want to get my experience in.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's people that are going to have season tickets. They're going to have,
Yeah.
they're like, well, if I want to go watch a game, it's going to take 2.5 hours rather than 3 or something
Yep.
like that,
And I side with your father. Like I'm, the old school piece of me, like the guy has the routine on the mound,
Yep.
and is pitching and going about his thing, because I don't know, the jury's still out, but there's a couple big name arms that were out for the year with injury at the start of the year. And some of them are saying that it's pitch clock related,
Yep.
it's just getting on the mound and going. And, so I don't know. We'll see how all that stuff plays out. But, I know that they're trying to keep the younger people involved in the game and interest and stuff. And you're right. I mean, watching on baseball or baseball on TV can be a little bit of a challenge for some people, right?
Yep.
But I don't know. A lot of people are very pro pitch clock stuff so far, so we'll see how it all kind of goes.
Yeah.
But
Now I want to go back to when we were younger. You gave out awards for kids, and I did. I do the same thing for basketball. I'll give out like most points, most steals, most rebounds, but then I'll give out some kind of fun ones of things I always thought of what they did well in the year.
Yep.
I always told the kids, you know what you did wrong? We could discuss this, and then I kind of want to highlight what they did well that year. But you gave out a totally different award called the Lover Boy Award. I was one of the recipients, one of 3. The other 2 were Joe Carone, who we talked about earlier when we started, and then Ryan Speltz. Now, I remember why Ryan got his. He got his because he was late to a game because his parents got lost picking up his girlfriend, I believe.
sounds about right.
Yeah. And then Joe and I got ours for what reason? Do you remember? Because I think I do. Let's see if you remember 20 years ago why you gave us this award. The Lover Boy
I thought
Award.
about this on the drive over this
You know
morning.
damn well it's coming up.
I know.
I'll even tell you what you gave us. You gave us, while you're thinking about that, you gave us boxer shorts, I believe. And there was something else. I can't remember exactly what it was.
chocolates?
Probably. That would make the most sense. Chocolate. I'm surprised we can get roses. We may have. But it was the Lover Boy Award. And I don't know if you remember, but I do.
That was an award that was in the program when I was playing.
Oh, really? So it's a
Yep.
tradition.
It was tradition.
That's even better.
Yep. It was tradition. And Dan Matejka would always give it to somebody because, being in that 15, 16-year-old range, guys started having girlfriends, come to the ballpark.
Sure.
It was never a good thing if you walked out with them because that was always stored in his memory bank.
Yeah.
And especially if you went to an out-of-town game and the girl rode with your parents to a game, that usually got stored in the memory bank as well. So there was always things, but I don't know if I necessarily remember why you two got it.
Well, it's because we always brought different girls to the games.
Yeah.
We didn't just, there were some
But I
that
felt
were
like you were more than Joe. Sorry, Joe. But I felt like you had more girls than Joe.
It's possible because I had my license. So
True.
Joe did not have his license at the time yet. But we would have, we had our regular girls, but then there would be a different one coming. And that's what you said. You go, these guys had different girls in the stands every single game almost, it seemed like.
It does ring a bell
And one of them
now.
was your friend's sister.
Yes.
So, anyways, that was why we got the Lover Boy Award. And I thought I didn't even know it was a tradition. I thought you came up with it on your own.
No, that was a tradition. So that one, and then it was like the Earl Bruger Award, and then there was I can't remember if there was another one. Those were the two mainstays, I know for sure.
Oh, that's that's what made things fun, though.
But it really stuck. So all that had to have really stuck out for three people to receive it, because usually it was only like one.
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, the reason Ryan got his is because he was late to a game.
Yeah,
They got
yeah.
lost. I think they went to go pick her up, and I know exactly who the girl was too. They went to Lewiston, and then they were coming to Rochester Century, I think it was, and they got lost. And we're like, he's pitching today? Where is he? And I know it was because they had the red clay at Century High School, the red clay mound. And they're like, where is he? He's supposed to be pitching today because I think Gilbertson and me had already pitched earlier that week. So we were out for, a couple days. And he shows up running in late. I think that's why you said you gave it to him at our awards thing. It was so funny. We still love that award. So I'm glad I'm part of history, at least on that part.
Yep.
So I'd like to transition now. You're not just about baseball. You just touched on it a little bit ago. You're kind of getting into the bar scene now.
Yeah.
Are you part owner or are you helping your buddy?
Yep. Part owner.
You're part owner of Port 507 then?
Yep.
Okay, so for those who are listening, if you're not from Winona, Port 507 is probably, I would say, the most popular bar now in Winona. At least in my opinion. Everyone says, hey, you going to Port? And when you say Port, you're going to Port 507. So what's life been like doing that as well? I mean, something you have a passion about?
Yeah. In college, I was doing that. I worked at Brothers for 4 years or so, and I don't know. It's just the service industry business has always been kind of fun. I don't know. I'm just very extroverted and love being around people all the time and meeting new people. So, I had kind of an interest with that always. Kind of always been like my cocktail every once in a while, like everybody else does. And, so my buddy Chad Brink has done an exceptional job with that place, and been in the bar business here for quite some time, and we've been brothers for a long time. And when I moved back, I really didn't know what I was going to do, because I kind of came back like right after COVID and then after Kent and stuff, and came back, and he just kind of brought it up. He's like, hey, what do you think about maybe partnering up? And I was like, yeah. I said, I'm up for it. And at that time, I was just helping bartend a little bit, and it's kind of like the safe set of eyes for him. He's a morning person, gets up and likes to do his routine in the morning, and I've kind of always been the night owl, and it's slowly changing, I think. But so it was good. I just been doing that, and it's just help drive people in, and kind of keep it what it's been,
Sure.
And so it's been fun, like he kind of has his way of doing things, and I'm respectful of that because of what he's made it and stuff. So I kind of just I just kind of call myself the number 2 a little bit, not in a bad way. It's just, it's been his product and his baby,
Sure.
and I respect that and grateful just to, kind of be a part of it and just, really just support him and what he's doing.
Now, he owns the Brickyard, too. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's got a piece of that.
Are you part of that, too? Nope, you're just part of Port
Yeah.
507.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have another question when it comes to that, because the location to me, I thought at first was not going to be the correct location, because Brothers Bar, since it's been Brothers, has been through like 2 or 3 ownerships. And I always thought that was a really cool place, but it was literally a block away from Port 507. And I was always wondering why that couldn't make it. And I would go, well, how's Port going to do it? They're way off the beaten path.
Yeah.
What's going on differently there that's making it so successful? Because when I walk by there, for the most part, there's at least, I would say, probably 10 people in there at all times, whether it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then at night it's very packed, especially when the college kids come. What's different about what you guys are doing there than other places? Because you are off the beaten path, I think, from all the other bars, because the other bars are probably 3 blocks away, I would say, at most.
I think the best feature of that place is the windows.
I think so too. that was what I thought too. 'Cause you could see people in there.
Yep. I think that's, I don't know, that I helped Chad a little bit just with, before he purchased it, we would talk often about locations, and he really thought about going elsewhere, going to different towns. I remember taking a trip with him, maybe up to Stout, and maybe we went to one other place. And yeah, he kind of started looking around. He's like, I got a brand here. Like, that's what I've always said. Like, I always tell him, like, you've kind of created your own brand, just for doing it for so long. 'Cause he was at Gabby's for 16 years or so, which is a long time.
Okay.
But then got off and did his own thing. And, because the location he's in now used to be a costume shop.
I know. I went there and got a costume one time for Halloween.
Between that and I think maybe Valley Security, maybe back in the day. I can't remember. But
I think they were, actually,
Yeah. And so he just kind of took it. Now, there's been a lot of add, subtract along the way, sound, everything else on the inside, but the windows, I always thought were like the best attribute in that place.
It really is, because when you go by, you're going to see ages from like 60. And then if you go by, in the college time, especially at night, you're going to see young kids.
Yep.
So you have a plethora of different age groups, because I've been in there, and there's been anywhere from like 60s all the way down to 21-year-olds. So,
and it really comes down to the staff, right, and training them to be really good behind the bar.
Yep.
Be friendly, and just create that atmosphere and make it a destination where people want to go.
Yeah.
Having Sammy's next door is a plus in my opinion.
Sure.
Great people, and it didn't go very smooth, I don't think, on the start. I was gone when doors opened at Port, but off coaching. But I just think that it's been plus because their business has grown. I mean, it's, and we invite people, hey, grab food, bring it on in, like, hang out, like that's what this is all about.
That's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Don't deter from that.
Yeah. And so it's been good, and a lot of people go in, and if they're ordering a pie for pickup, they'll come in and have a drink, and then go pick it up and go home, whatever. So it's been good, man. It's just, like I said, treat people right. It's a lot of space. I know Chad spent a lot of time in making that patio what it is. And
that's right. He's got patio in the back now, too.
Yep.
I remember he talked about that. But I like how the bar is it's really big, and there's TVs up with all sports going on. So it's still kind of like a sports bar at the same time. And you can talk to people across from it, which is even better.
For sure. That's one thing I'm a stickler about. Like, there better be sports on that TV all the time.
Yep.
Like, nobody wants to watch Bonanza, like
especially when you can't hear the TV anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So sports you don't need sound for the most part.
Yeah, and it always what's attracting people,
Yeah.
And on Saturday college football, there better be football on that TV all day long. Now, if somebody comes in and they want to watch a Twins game, like it's September still, and they want, like, by all means, turn it on.
Yeah, you only have like 15 TVs there.
Yeah.
One of them can have it on.
Right. So. and Vikings games have been fun. Like 2 years ago, last year not so much, but 2 years ago, man, it was awesome in there. Like every Sunday for Vikings.
Oh
games
yeah,
was awesome.
Great season.
Yeah, fun season, and just every Sunday it was like it was going to be a good energy, good crowd in there. So
So you came in, and how long ago have you been part of this? Was it 2, 3, 4?
December will be 2 years.
December. So is there something that's, if someone goes into Port 507, you had your hand in, like if you went in there and said, yeah, that was my idea. I wanted that, and I thought that was a good idea to help us out. Is there any part that you had, or was it mostly Chad doing it?
Yeah, not necessarily. Like I said, I've just kind of always been just kind of in the weeds, like it's his baby, and now, but we're open communication about everything. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Yep.
And there's some things that he's just adamant about it, and I was like, yeah, do it, man. It's yours.
Sure.
But I don't know, like work together on trying to find staff,
Yeah. Is it tough to find staff nowadays? Or are kids pretty good about wanting to be bartenders? Because I feel like at that place, if you're a good-looking girl, you're going to come out with some pretty hefty cash.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been good. I think the staff that's there right now has been really fun. Just it's kind of a hodgepodge, right? Of a couple athletes, a couple just students, some in the nursing world. Like it's just it's a really good blend. And they want to work.
That's good.
And that's kind of gives hope for the future, right?
Or else you just have good owners and managers. That's also a good thing, because if you treat your employees right, they're gonna come.
And that's the thing too, right? Is just trying to. None of us are harping down their throats about things. It's like, hey, this is the way it's done, and a lot of it gets handled in training. I think Chad does an exceptional job, and training us bartenders, and like, this is how it is, this is how I want you to move, like working head up, just all the little things, right? And because like sitting at a bar, you get some people that they're not very patient, and if they have an empty, like they want another one right away, and just looking at little things like walking by and how much is left of their beverage, so like put that in your memory bank and look, or if it's getting close, hey, you ready for another one? Just
that's the best thing to do,
and
keep that in your memory.
Yeah, and so there's some of that, and then obviously the door staff too. It's just making sure that they're constantly moving and cleaning up, picking up stuff, because
it's always clean in there. When you go in there, it's pretty much always clean, and the bathrooms are all tiled. I mean, that really speaks to me. When you go into a place and their bathroom is very, very nicely done and tiled, it speaks volumes about the place, because you go to a bathroom, you're not thinking you're going to see it's a bar. It's, you're not going to think about seeing the best bathroom in the world. You go in there, it's all tiled. I'm like, that's pretty nice.
I got a piece of advice when I was working at Brothers, and this was like right when I started. And this was something that Mark and Eric Fortney were very adamant about, and they had shared with every single GM that they ever had. They're like, you can tell a place by the looks of their bathrooms. If their bathrooms are clean, the rest of the bar is clean.
Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me. And it's like, it's the one thing that I look at on every single establishment that I go into since that moment.
Yeah. You're right about that, though. One of my favorite things about Port is and I'm a beer guy, the selection of beer.
Yeah.
There's like about 10 taps or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a plethora from every single type you'd pretty much want. And I'm a big like IPA, hazy IPA kind of guy. Yep. And you guys have Axeman on tap right now, and you have Pseudo Sue still. Yep. So I go in there, I know I can get those ones. And then obviously you have your domestics, which obviously got to have those. But then you have other ones like stouts and stuff, and that just brings in like everyone can find something that you would like there.
Yep. That's something that Chad's always been pretty stickler about, is like just there'll always be a couple staples, right? You always have Coors Light and Mick Golden on there, and Pseudo for the most part is always there. But there's a couple of them that will always rotate. And, it's hard sometimes too, because then you get a little traction with one and then it's gone, right? But a lot of times it goes with the season too. We'll make sure that we're keeping up with the season. And
sure, you got to have the seasonals on there for sure. Sam Adams always seems like any restaurant you go to, Sam Adams has a seasonal on there at all places for the most part, whether it's Cold Snap or whether it's just the regular Boston Lager or something else. Yeah.
And, in today's world, too, it's like the seltzer game is just through the roof.
Oh, I know.
And it's so hard to, like, there's just not enough cooler space,
Sure.
And there's so many different flavors of every one.
I know. There's a seltzer for everything now. Everyone's got, White Claw to me is like the first one, but I'm sure there's other ones that were before that. But now everyone's got a seltzer. Bud Light's got a seltzer.
And
every
it's
brand
different,
does.
like, because White Claw is a malt base, right? And all the other ones out now are all vodka based for the most part.
Okay.
So it's just a little different. But, like in this area, the High Noon's still solid. The Carbless is still solid. But, man, now you got these Fresco ones that are so good. Like, like these, like even Sunny Delight's got one,
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I've actually had that, and it wasn't that bad.
Good.
I know. Remember Zima?
Yeah.
We got a Zima sign back there. But, that one tasted like...
Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, you throw a Jolly Rancher, and it tastes like 7-Up. Right. That's what it tasted like. So, it's almost time for us to go golf. But before we do that, question before we wrap up. Favorite baseball movie? I have mine. Is there one that stands out?
Yeah, I've always been a Major League guy.
A Major League?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Bull Durham's right there.
Okay. And I like The Rookie.
The Rookie's solid.
That one with Dennis Quaid, I like the whole story aspect about it. And it's like a true story, so I really love that. But Major League's a lot of people, they love that one.
Yeah,
and
comedy.
I got to say, I've never actually seen them. So I have to watch them.
Oh,
I do.
Man, you've been shortchanged.
Well, I remember Angels in the Outfield. That was always a good one when I was younger, too. But as I grew up and I saw The Rookie, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I like true stories. So.
Sure. Field of Dreams, though, definitely has moved up in my, like, Major League, Bull Durham, but Field of Dreams will always kind of be up there, too, just because the storyline, right?
Yeah.
But once you've been in that house in Dyersville, it's just a whole nother meaning.
Yeah.
And I've been in that house 4 times now, and I've been able to do some events with some former big leaguers, like my buddy who's an agent does all the marketing memorabilia stuff for like Robin Yount, Mark Grace, and many, many more. And I've got to attend the event 4 times with those 2 guys and be in the house, and it's so cool, man. Like. And it's the same. It's the same as the movie. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sharp, man.
I know.
And just to see kids still, even to this day, that their parents take them for vacation or whatever, and they're on there, and you see a dad playing catch with his son, like that just always gets you a little bit right here.
I think baseball's like that father-son sport. It's just
no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's like that staple sport that is a father-son thing for the most part. So,
for sure.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to the podcast?
No,
besides that we're going to go golf here?
I'm looking forward to that. At least it looks like the rain's going to hold off.
I think the rain has held off, and it's actually pretty warm out.
This has been a blast. I appreciate it, man.
This has been awesome. I want to thank you for coming on again. We actually started talking about this back in, I think it was November, at a marketing at Merchants Bank.
Yeah.
It was just like a networking night, I think it was. And I said, hey, I'm starting up a podcast. I want to have you on sometime. And here we are about 9 months later.
Love it.
On finally. So
cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for those who are listening and watching, please subscribe, comment, share, whatever it is, especially if you like this. It really helps out the podcast if you can. But this has been another episode of Brews and Cruise. Cheers.
Cheers.